Welcome back, everyone, to the DreamHack Open Sevilla, Spain. We are one map deep into our second semifinal of the day, a back-to-back visit to Vertigo. This time around, two different teams in which GODSENT came out victorious. It was their map pick after all, and now CR4ZY are going to get to go somewhere where they're a little more comfortable.
Yeah, I think it was sort of evident, like with the amount of aggression that CR4ZY were constantly having to throw in, and I think that was just a very good performance from GODSENT. Like, they had great utility usage. You could see that there were retakes they managed to make with pretty much just the grenades. They didn't even really need to kill half of the people on the side because they did so much damage. They're out. Then also, I think going onto the T side, they basically just had everything done from that point, like decent executions, able to section out different players. We saw a good performance from both Makalele, Zen was playing very well, Sticko I think was the top fragger in the whole server, and I don't think they really broke much of a sweat. The difference is now they go onto a map where I do feel like CR4ZY actually can do some real damage. They have that double orb setup of both Otto and Esperanto who can basically take over rounds individually. They even managed to do it on the previous map when they weren't performing too well. I think it's just a more of a comfort pick for them in general.
A map that generally does favor faster plays, and that's something in which CR4ZY can try to outpace GODSENT at this point, keep themselves within the series. They will be over onto the T side first, GODSENT on the CT. We'll see how things fare over here in the pistol round, in which CR4ZY have elected to split themselves off.
Yeah, we have seen in the past CR4ZY do sometimes struggle on this T siding and can be fairly reliant on the likes of Esperanto to get them openers into the site, especially if things don't go too well in the early stages of the round. Like, I've seen them get like 10, maybe even 11 rounds on the CT side before and almost lose it until he has one of those star performances. Same can be said for Ships. If he gets the SG rolling, then it's definitely possible that he can also take over this map. Whereas for GODSENT, if they just continue to perform as a unit, I think they should have this in the bag. Either way, in this pistol round, it is looking like the burst out of Pop, the attempt to get the bomb down, and Zen's going to be the main man watching the cross, but likely to be forced off the angle, and straight away, this should just end up being a retake.
No flickers of bullets taken by anybody just yet, as GODSENT have decided to allow CR4ZY to push into this spot and enter afterwards. But Otto and Esperanto are the first to crack this, as well as Otto taking up a second one for himself. Sticko's all of a sudden the only one over there by Old Bomb in lane 2. CR4ZY off to a strong start.
Yeah, decent pistol round up from them, just getting onto the site fairly quickly and forcing GODSENT into the retake. And the retake is possible on that side of the map. I think it's definitely the tougher of the two, though, just because of all of the strong afterplant positions. We are going to see an investment in. I'm happy to see the 5-7 into Zen's hands, as we've already seen some magic from him with that gun throughout the tournament. The scout on Makalele as well. You can see how safe CR4ZY are taking this, though. 4 rifles. We saw pretty much full SMGs in the last map when it was GODSENT looking for those bonus rounds. Crystal should be dead to rights, however, his aggression failing.
Just going to be joining the pigeons there, hanging out in that side for now. As GODSENT lose another one in the eyes of Sticko. Letney. Those sights. More action going up there at the top of Ivy, where Ships is able to clean up with the SG, which he loves so much. Zen now the only one standing over on the A site, so he's just going to back off. You wanted to see him on this weapon, and we might get a little action just yet. Just questionable of what he's going to be able to turn it into for his team. Nothing as far as round potential, but maybe a couple picks.
Oh, this is not what I wanted to see. I think it's a little bit easier when they're pushing him rather than him having to push them.
Yeah.
Also, now knowing where he is means that we are going to see Emmy back in behind him. And, well, I feel a little bit bad for Esperanto. He took about 30 seconds to run all the way back to the spawn, run all the way back and get the bomb. And it doesn't even mean anything in the end.
He's going to be out of breath going into the next one. Luckily, a little time in between for him to catch his breath. Considering that CR4ZY are usually a bit weaker on the T side, it is nice to see them be able to follow up on their pistol victory without letting anything fall apart, is the thing. It was already in their control to begin with. And with that control, they were able to make something happen. Now going into this round, they should be able to clean it up as long as nothing gets out of control once more. Autoed on the SG. A little fire to set him back for now. As Ships is set over to keep the eyes on Ivy, and the rest of the Ts are rotating through the halls, a separation of Esperanto to keep his eyes over on Pop Dog.
Yeah, this is just a round where they've sort of tried to stack up a little bit in a crossfire. They got every single player within this site, but at the moment it seems like the T's are doing a fairly decent job of just sectioning out these remaining players, and, well, one by one, all going to fall. Not a single kill coming in, and as clean as you like for CR4ZY. That'll be 3-0 onto the board, only a single frag coming in so far for the side of GODSENT. But this is where they get the buy-in. Makalele back onto the AWP, which I don't think we actually saw him bring out much, if at all. And in fact, they'll go straight in with a double AWP setup. Crystal, as said in the past, has been known to pick up the primary AWP, but doesn't have any armor in this scenario, and it shows that even though this is their first proper buy run on the board, there's still a few limitations.
We'll have to see what the double AWP setup does for them, considering the benefit of having them in the longer angles that you like to take here on Train. But one of them's already knocked.
That was the no armor.
To lead that in, yeah. Last cannon getting cracked. Here at the bottom of the ladder, Sticko manages to pick one up, but does take damage in the process. Things start to get evened out. Makalele still has the AWP for himself and makes sure to put it to good use against CR4ZY that have now been limited to Letni and Ships. Both separated into lane 1 as well as Olaf, and Ships gets it onto Makalele, so no more long-range rifle for GODSENT. They do still have the AK that they stole prior, and 2 M4s working for them, going into the SG and the AK on the opposite side.
Walking around like a caterpillar. It's just all touching. Trying to keep it in a nice little line. Doing a conga along the way, but it does actually work out. Sticko's going to get the first. Ships waiting patiently. That SG is going to net him a kill, but no real trade available. The conga has ended, and they're actually going to be separated here. So got to be careful from Ships. He's very close to walking into an angle that would actually benefit his opposition. Again, they're going to leave the bomb in the spawn, so he's going to have to walk back, get it, choose a site, run there, and then get the bomb down. And he's very wary that there's already someone around this angle, so it's taking a very, very long time for Ships. I almost kind of hope he just runs it straight towards the B site and just tries to go in that direction, which is what he's going to be doing. The problem is there is now a secondary player, and Zen, he even has a full belt of utility going into this.
He's ready. CR4ZY Ships had to use his last smoke to block off Pop Dog in his rotation to get the bomb to begin with.
Oh, I love it.
That's the benefit of having an incendiary in your hand for GODSENT. Says, yo, you're here on the point.
Well, not even that. He dunks him with a nade as well. So he threw the incendiary to burn him, and then threw the nade so that it would kill him quick enough that he couldn't escape. Just smart from Zen. And the thing is, a lot of players especially would have used all of their utility up before that moment. Maybe even should have done, but hey, that works out for him. It means he doesn't even have to fight Ships in the clutch, and considering how well he's already been playing so far in this map, I think he's right at the top of the board, or alongside. He's 7-1, top fragger at least. And they're going to have a buy back in. As I said, they made a lot of money early in this map. So they'll have the AWP, they'll have the rifles, and it does still only come down to a couple of players remaining for the CTs, so not necessarily a bad situation for the Ts if they can win this next round.
And this time, you all can't see in the audience just yet, but those that will be on the AWPs for GODSENT do have helmets and Kevlar available to them, which should allow them to last a bit longer around this time, though it may be a different decision on who will be rocking the second AWP.
Yeah, I do wonder if Crystal only picked it up because he could just afford a glass cannon. You're not going to want to drop that over, so might have not been so much a tactical decision, just what weapon he would rather play in that round. We've seen Madden picking it up a little bit more, and I think it's a nice little balance because we've actually seen Makalele be a little bit more passive with his AWP. Well, speaking of the opposite of that, it's going to be the quick play in from Letni. He's just run straight out onto the site. Otto is actually going to be the one to get the pick, and Letni gets another even double up. And now SP adds one more to the body pile. Madden has no choice but to save this AWP.
No, we didn't even get to see him in action with it, which I find really fun watching him on the AWP because he often likes to play it the same way he would play with a typical rifle. Maybe he can get somebody here. He is going to find Letni sitting up there at the top. So that's at least some for him. But at this point, it's too big of a weapon with no money in your pocket afterwards that you're just going to want to be able to stick on this as much as possible. About 25% of the time left for this bomb to tick down.
The thing is, the Ts can actually take the risk here. They've got enough money to rebuy. They don't really want to be losing the AWP. That would be a little bit more of a detriment if Otto goes down. But Madden actually does a very good job of just surviving here. So he'll keep his AWP. He also makes things a little bit more costly. But as I said, for CR4ZY, that didn't really matter in the grand scale of things. Now the CTs have a bit of an awkward situation because in reality, they don't have enough money to buy. But there'll be the temptation because they have the orb. Now, they're going to play it safe. I respect that, especially being on the favored side of the map. You don't want to just continuously force and never have the proper buys. But for Crazy, this means, okay, if we deal with Maiden, we deal with the round.
Most of GODSENT pouring onto A site through Z, leaving Madden to try and watch over at B ramp. And here, Letney breaks into the site, first to do so off the back of that flash from Emmy. Stepping onto the top of the trains. Can you make anything happen from it? Crazy, the smokes are still there to slow this down a tad, but they're not going to let that slow down the roll of their bullets as Esperanto picks up 2 on that AK, and now it's just Madden once again. Which, yes, GODSENT weren't expecting to walk away with the win here. But question is he going to be able to pick up anything like he was at the end of last round? Likely not.
Well, I wonder if he'll be able to save the ult. Like, they should be able to buy the double anyway, which they can. But that's still an important clear coming out from Crazy at the end. 4 players surviving once again means that the money's going to be stacked back up. And hey, I would almost say that if they get more than 6 or 7 rounds on this T side, I think we're going to map 3. Because I actually have a lot of faith in the CT side of Crazy. I'm probably going to have to eat my words now. The commentator curse always seems to come in. But it's normally their T side that lets them down. And the CT side is strong. Like, you get that double orb going. Maybe if the economy could shut down by GODSENT, then they could have still the chance. But I have much more faith in their CT side than their T, and they're already 5-1 up. So something needs to change, and it needs to change now. Luckily, the money's going to be back, and a pause is going to be taken for GODSENT.
That's the difference maker. The earlier rounds, Crazy was able to capitalize as much as they possibly could off of the pistol when the bank was broken for GODSENT, picking it up when they needed to. And that's the kind of thing that can add up over time, because if you lose those rounds that should be going in your favor, you will surely be kicking yourself in the butt for them later. But now that GODSENT start to get things rolling a tad more, not fully with helmets for them, but they will start to try and stack some of these incendiaries into the hallways and slow down any roll that Crazy could try and push through. But they haven't moved the bomb towards any of the sites yet. They're going to keep that over by Cubby, with a couple keeping their eyes onto Ivy. Potentially clear it out, but Crystal is waiting over on that side to see which keys are going to rotate in.
He's had a poor start to this game, and I think that's why they're continuously putting the pressure. 006 has been getting wrecked pretty much every single round, and hey, if that's the case, good on Crazy. Keep pressuring him. Keep doing the same thing until eventually there's a difference made. Well, they are going to opt to go in this direction once again. The Molotovs holding not only them back, but also Crystal back, and he's faded into the smoke. This could be perfect. He's going to look to keep him behind Chips. That'll be his first kill onto the board, and his teammates will now realize that there's a man around this corner, but can they do anything about it? Nades expended to try and force people out of these close angles, but Sticko will survive on top of the train, and as of right now, it seems like Crazy is somewhat boxed in.
That they are, but they're still trying to find an opening. Letney might have started to create that opening for them, getting the kill with the SG, and Emmy follow up on the AK. Now it's just 3, make that 2 standing for GODSENT. Huddled over in lane 1 as Crazy start to push forward in that direction, but Crystal starting to connect it. Getting his first 3 of the entire map onto the scoreboard currently with the stolen SG in hand. Make that 4. All that leaves is Letney, and he's directly onto the bomb where it has been planted. Manages to make it just a battle between himself and the AWP of Makalele. But into Z he goes.
Yeah, he's just going to play the time, and luckily there isn't actually a kit for Makalele. Just going to tap the bomb, try and bait him out of position, but Letney's not falling for it. He's won this round purely based off time, and while you have to feel a little bit bad, Crystal, he goes from 0 kills to 4 and still loses, and he probably should have even had the ace because Letney was caught looking in the wrong direction. A very good round from him in general, but again, it's not enough. And Letney, I've actually been really impressed with how he's been playing today. I think he's had a lot of high-impact plays. Like, we even saw it in the last map. He's currently top of the board, 9-3, and we talk about having this like sort of trifecta of death, which includes Otto, SP, and Chips. But if he can add in a 4th member to that squad, I don't think GODSENT stand a chance in this map.
That's been a lot of the key conversation around Crazy, as it's a small investment from GODSENT, so they're feeling pretty good going into this, taking down Crystal. If you look at their performance as somewhere like Atlanta, right, where it was the absence of a fourth really coming through that switched it to not work for them so well.
I think there was an absence of a lot of the players when it came to the ladder portions. Like, sometimes the 3 players is enough, but I'm just saying that GODSENT can fight maybe versus 3, but if you add Letney into the mix as well, that I don't think they can handle that much firepower.
And at 12 HP, he's rocking the AWP currently. A single M4 for GODSENT will be in the hands of Makalele. And really heavily positioned across A. They've got one hanging on over towards the hall entrance, 2 towards the top. They're actually going to rotate into the hallways, and Ships is making himself down the lane. So GODSENT have completely locked down this A site, which has allowed Crazy to rotate over into the B. They get the plant. 6 rounds still in their favor, and this is going to put the pressure onto GODSENT to try to make that rotation around, but they only have a single HE in their hands. Got the SG2 that was stolen away, so at least with a couple rifles for them, it puts them in a better position. Letney still feeling low, but a powerful rifle there. Typical positioning to be locking over at the bottom of halls, but now walking onto the catwalk to keep the eyes on anyone that tries to enter this. But the time's going down, and GODSENT are simply going to save onto what they've got.
Yeah, right decision. Like, the chance of them retaking the B site with 4 players still on it and having absolutely no map control was very, very slim. Instead, they saved 2 weapons. They saved Kevlar on the remaining players, which, okay, it's a minor victory, but it's something. Like, it means that you don't have to rebuy as much going into the next round, and if things go wrong again, you'll have more of an opportunity at a repurchase. The worry for me now is that they've already given 7 rounds to the T side of Crazy. Now, as said, I have a lot of faith in Crazy's CT side of Train. It's the T side where they sometimes struggle, and they've been dominating. Now, maybe there's a chance if GODSENT just managed to string the remaining rounds together that we see Crazy a little bit demoralized and don't quite play up to standard, but from what we've seen so far, other than Crystal getting that 4K, there's not a round that I think has been particularly close.
They really do have to turn it around. We've seen this double op setup, and there's Otto taking one off again. Every time they've been going in with the AWP, then Crazy have just taken one away with their entry frag, and then immediately from there, that investment is completely nullified.
Well, the other thing as well is that they had a gamble stack, which was 4 players on A, Makalele on B. They've had to split now 2-2 because Makalele died. Now, I like the fact that they've adapted into a pop dog control. It's a powerful position that you can throw in once or twice and can easily net you some skill. Unfortunately, Esperanto is going to use that opening onto Makalele to gain him some extra ground, and this just sets the B site alight. Everybody out of there, the CT side once again, are just going to force to save. They can't retake this unless Madden can do something incredibly impressive. They will at least get a kill onto Ships, which makes it more possible, and now there might be a temptation. They've got it into a 3v3. If SB somehow loses this duel, then I think they go for it, but you can already see a complete fallback already from one of the players, and Emmy's actually going to catch out the remaining 2. Rebuy, still somewhat possible just because of the loss bonus, but 8 rounds already for Crazy, and this is utterly dominant.
It's round number 9, 7-1. We're already into the second half of the first half, and the opportunity for GODSENT to completely run away and get a string of their own is just becoming more and more limited. I was hoping that maybe after Crystal was able to get the 4 kills in that round, that it would be, lit the fire a tad, but since that happened, we haven't seen a single one drop from him.
Well, I think that's the thing, it's like, it only really lights the fire if you win. Like, even a 3K if you win the round, I feel like it gets you more pumped up than getting a 4K and losing the round, because it's like, and I did all that, and it achieved nothing. Like, it almost just feels like a waste, like he was saving them up for that round especially, and expended all of his tokens at once and still lost.
All about mindset, man. I like to think about the tokens that we got. But nah, I feel you. It's difficult. It can get frustrating. And maybe some more frustration to be had if GODSENT just get overrun again. They have sent Zen onto the site, but he's all in his lonesome and was punished for it by Emmy. Now the rest of the rotation start to come through, but Crazy are in full force directly onto the site. Bomb will be moving in a moment's time through Catwalk. Letney just a little doo-doo-doo is all it took for Makalele to be macked on down. And it's Sticko and Crystal running up towards Pigeons to keep themselves safe. Another bomb getting planted. And CR4ZY have to be feeling pretty confident in this train selection.
Yeah, this is destruction. Like, this is, well, this is crazy with momentum. Like, this is why people do fear this team. Again, I spoke to Devil Walk in the lobby. Just sort of said to him, like, okay, like, what are you doing about teams like CR4ZY? Because it was before they played Gambit Youngsters, and I was like, he sort of spoke about how they tried to counter those teams, but sometimes they're the ones that are difficult to counter because they don't necessarily make sense. And again, I don't think that CR4ZY are doing anything ridiculously like off the charts in terms of strategy. Like, a lot of their stuff is working off of the picks. Like, got a fairly loose style. You see that, like, for example, the entry onto Makalele in like one of the rounds was purely based off one player jumping across, having a flashbang, and then setting up Otto. Like, it's still good work from the rest of the team to allow him to get that kill. But it's not like we're seeing like a Molotov strategy that forces players out on it. No, it's just that they're hitting their shots, they're moving into the site, they're working as a unit, and that's where this team plays their best Counter-Strike. And then they gain more and more confidence, they play more and more ridiculously. However, finally, we see an opening frag actually go the way of GODSENT. I don't think I've said that in about, hey, maybe 9 rounds?
Perhaps. I would definitely believe that, and off of the back of it, maybe GODSENT can try and turn it into something. They do crack it with 2, but Crystal falls in the process. Another one picked up from Madden. He does love to heat up, and now it's just Emmy. So GODSENT, hey, all right. Second round picked up for them. Their first one came in round number 4. So 4 and 11, their lucky numbers so far in this first half. Every time they've just been playing in a player deficit within the first few moments of the round and haven't been able to adapt effectively because of the aggression coming out of CR4ZY. Very much a domino effect from when CR4ZY are landing these shots. You're saying how great they can be when it's coming through, but it does seem to snowball into the confidence, which cleans up their strategy, cleans up overall play, and Esperanto and Chips continue to be clean on their shots, on the AK and the SG. Powering on through Esperanto with the double for himself once again. Plenty of utility to try to back it up. And it doesn't even matter, he goes down at this point. GODSENT still marked down to Zen and Crystal all in their lonesome. Make that Zen all by himself. And CR4ZY get round number 10 for themselves.
That has to be so frustrating to play against. Like, that's literally just one player walking out, headshotting 2 of your players, and someone pushing out over on Ivy and doing exactly the same thing. Like, as said, I feel like I think a snowball effect is a pretty good example. And I think at this point, the snowball is far too big to stop. If you stand in your way, you're going to get squashed. And sure, there's been a few attempts to slow it down, like Madden having a decent round not too long ago. But just look at what is actually being done here by CR4ZY. It's one player sort of running out, trying to take these fights, a few shots being missed here and there by GODSENT, other players being given space because of the ludicrousy of some of these pushes. And it's looking so easy for CR4ZY to do this, but it's not. It's just that they are playing so well at the moment. Esperanto, he's actually going to get put down. Madden finally coming up again with a couple of kills, but even still, this turns into an afterplant situation where one of your players has an MP9 and 1 HP, and the AWPer is even tagged as well.
It's not like he hasn't been getting kills, and right there finds one before he falls. If you look at the past few rounds, he's been able to pick them up. It's just doesn't turn into a victory. He's got 9, which is the top for his entire team.
It's not saying very much.
Right, that's
it's
what
also
I'm saying.
the bottom for his opposition's team.
Yeah, like 9, it's the top for what GODSENT's brought here, but then Emmy and Chips are technically lowest for theirs, and they're also at 9. Still great performances from them, so it's just more even and tight between the members of CR4ZY, as all of them are feeling in fairly good form.
This looks like one of those matches where everything just works. Well, you can see the confidence flying. Chips, okay, he's gonna put the brakes on a little bit. Esperanto gets absolutely wrecked by the MP9, but they didn't expect Emmy to just be waiting in the corner. Let me trying to help, but maybe Emmy doesn't need it. He's already gonna find his second kill. Otto just seems to be the man to close things out. He's only died 4 times in this match so far. Has been tagged quite a bit here, and Madden has said he's been someone who's risen over the last few rounds. Nice shot onto Otto. That'll be his fifth death. And he's still lucky, gets caught off by Zen. And now Ships is the last one standing. He should have a decent idea where both these players are, but he can't quite spin around quick enough. A third onto the board for GODSENT. Still plenty of money, of course, for the T's. And we should have a buy-in to the final round of the half.
Yeah, it's all great getting around here and around there for GODSENT. Props to them for doing that. But you're going to have to do a lot more than these just single round trade-offs to bring yourself back into this. CR4ZY are going to feel even better when they go over to the CT side. And 11 rounds, even if GODSENT can walk away with this one, would still be a very comfortable place to be. A combination of Scout, Og, and before, still have that up working for Madden. That's the most that they're able to do here in round number 15 against CR4ZY, who just do not seem to be letting up. Mostly joined over down in the lower halls.
See, at this point, I wonder if they just assume it's going to be a B tape, because by this point in the round, normally, they'd already have complete A control. That just seems to be the way that things are working. It looks like we might be having a slight tech issue as everybody is slowly moonwalking into the wall, so...
Looks pretty funny on the map.
Yeah, I think that's just a slight server issue. Luckily, I don't think any damage had been done, so it's not really going to matter in the grand scale of things. It's not one of those situations where the admin's going to have to make a call on what happens, so it's not the worst case scenario. There's definitely worse things that could have gone wrong, and to be fair, it's at a time where I don't think either team are going to be feeling like they've been too hard done by. CR4ZY currently 11-3 up. It's been an impressive performance from them, and I do think that it's very much just been, once they got going, once they just pulled off so many of these rounds where they were able to just group up, trade effectively, and find fantastic entries, I just don't think GODSENT ever recovered. I don't think they ever got to a point where they looked like they were in this map.
When it comes to breaking down someone's performance, and you look at the 11-round victories for CR4ZY, and you want to be able to go through, obviously, the analysis, the stats, the strats that they're putting forward, but there is that X-factor element, especially with a team like CR4ZY. We've talked about it, but you have to put weight on the fact that when it all works collectively, when they are feeling themselves individually, it seems like they feel themselves more as a unit. Whereas GODSENT, if you're looking over onto the Vertigo performance, we talked so much about how clear-cut their strategy was, and that a lot of their strength came not necessarily from the individual pop-offs, but their execution and their ability to defend when over on CT, and their prioritization over onto the B site on Vertigo, which is something that not a lot of teams have done. So it's those little different catch-offs, those differences in positioning that work for them. But if you're going against CR4ZY and that's not exactly the thing that is putting them into the driver's seat for this, you can't really say, oh yeah, just shoot better than him. All right, try and get him next time.
I think one of the problems that you could suggest is that they have not been able to use their utility too well. I think that the fact that we see a player either burst out of pop or A main almost every single round and get that far forward either suggests that there needed to be a slightly earlier Molotov, or they needed to nade stack it or do something to try and counter that. Because that happened too many times, be it Esperanto, be it Letni, who has had a great performance, Emmy then also coming out of pop. And then the thing that they've been doing really well, which is actually very much down to their communication and synergy, is once, say, Emmy or Esperanto or whoever it is gets out of A main and grabs a lot of map control, Ships is then free to do whatever he wants over at Ivy. Now, most of the time he's been winning that duel. As I said, he's been having a fantastic game. On the other side of things, Crystal's been really struggling. So they've exploited that quite a bit. But there's been small little things that you can spot from CR4ZY which are blatantly made from one player doing one thing, it's being communicated correctly, and I think that's just because they're well prepared on this map, and it is very easy to sort of focus on the fact that, yeah, they're playing very well individually, but I think there's aspects that are often overlooked from their team play because they have such talented players. But hey, the players who are currently at the top of the board at the moment are Letni, who's currently got 13 kills on Otto. And Otto, a lot of the time, he's not actually just going for entries, he's actually working on trade frags. So, again, you can focus on what you like. Of course, they are playing like a super aggressive style of train, but they're also working very well as a unit.
If you look at what the desk was saying going into the semifinal, all 4 teams that have made it to this point do, to a degree, believe that they deserve to walk away with the overall victory here at the DreamHack Open. Lights a bit more of a fire, which is why maybe we will get 2 that go the distance all the way to a map number 3. CR4ZY sure seems to be trying to make that happen here on Train. Convincing performance so far, and that's an opener from Autoed. We were just talking about his ability to do that, working on the trades too. But taking one away and Madden off of it is quite a strong way to start this.
Yeah, and because they've had so much presence over to the A site, you can understand why the stack is in that direction. Good work from Sticker to at least survive for a moment, but again, it's going to be Letney able to get that kill, not allow him any further presence. Crystal also rotating in with the scout and ships. This is what I mean. He gains so much space from the rest of his team. The look back does eventually come in from Zen, and the attempted shot from Crystal is going to be missed. This is looking like the half is over. Makalele is going to do his best to try and clutch this out, but the problem is he knows there's a player in behind and, well, misses out on the player right in front of him. A 12-3 T side half from CR4ZY. Utter dominance, and they need 4 rounds on the CT side to close it out.
Back to train we go, as CR4ZY prove why this is their map pick, going against GODSENT. 12-13 on the scoreboard thus far. And with a few rounds away from a victory, CR4ZY could be pushing the second semifinal to a map number 3 once more.
Oh, if they don't, I'll be blown away. Like, GODSENT would have to pull off one of the most impressive T-sides I think we've seen in a long, long time. That was utterly dominant. Well, basically, they'd have to pull off one as good as the one we've just seen. Either way, Emmy looking like he's getting overwhelmed. Never mind, Ships has just cleaned them all up. He's had some help along the way. It's left onto Madden.
This is my house. This is ours.
Yeah. I think that he's just going to be put in the grave fairly quickly. Emmy, I think he gets 3 assists and a kill in that round. I think that was mostly based off the nade he was lining up, but either way, great work from Ships just to like mow down these remaining players. Like, look how many assists are coming in there.
Good play to start it off, man. CR4ZY 13-3. And we talked about the fact that CT side is actually their stronger side compared to T, and they obviously picked up plenty of rounds, 12 in total in that first half. So if they can just perform even on average for what they usually do on this side of things, then they should be able to clear it out. A small investment from GODSENT coming through with the Deagles, and some utility to boot, P252. CR4ZY on the other hand, also bringing out the SMGs. They want to get to a rolling start the same way they did during that first half, where they were able to tie together the first 3 rounds before GODSENT could get anything, which is fine. That's okay for a half to happen, but when you only need a few more rounds to get the overall win, then that might just be where you put all your effort.
Yeah, this is sort of a lose if you do, lose if you don't situation. It's not a good position for GODSENT to be in. Emmy? Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. They're going to be behind him. He actually gets killed, but it doesn't seem to matter. Esperanto just killing him off at range. Sticko will be there to finally get the trade, but the damage should be done here. Sticko doesn't spawn out Letney. He's got some info. Nice shots off the back of the Deagle. He might have just given them a lifeline. The bomb, in the meantime, could double back. If he can make it to B, then there's a real possibility of them stealing this round away.
Got 30 seconds to do so, but slow and steady wins the race. No reason to give away any information. Letney and Otto are going to keep themselves over towards that B site, with Letney starting to move through the hallway. And Madden is keeping the angle over from Ivy, rotating from the first lane into the site directly, but Otto has a chance to maybe come off through the back if they could get this cross. There you go, find it onto Stico, and it's all on Madden. But it's not unlike him to try and pull out in this situation. He's got the Deagle in hand, actually picked up the MP9. And through the smoke, there will be one, but Letney finishes him off, so CR4ZY will be putting this to a round number 14. 2 away.
The thing is, I understand why Madden went back through the connector, but I feel really bad for him, because the play in that scenario is that 9 times out of 10, you would say there'd either be someone around the connector or around electric box or on the ladder or something, but he walks all the way around, and Letney's pushed into A main, and I think it was Otto had pushed all the way back towards the spawn. So it meant that they couldn't kill anyone, and they'd run out of time, so they just had to plant right in the positions where CR4ZY already were. So rather than having that surprise with the bomb being down on the other side, which in hindsight would have been the better play, they just try and plant the bomb in front of them, and it's very, very easy for them to clutch that out. So a little bit of bad luck. I think the play from GODSENT was actually the right call, but yeah, hindsight's a powerful asset.
A lot of utility used to make sure that no one makes that rotation over from Ivy, which was extremely prioritized from Crazy to take advantage of Crystal prior, but Esperanto has no problem picking a couple up to start things off. Let me with a follow-up. And Crystal, who's been having a rough map indeed, does get it onto ships, but nonetheless, Crazy put this to map point.
Letney is currently 19-7. Like, he is killing it. Like, there's been a lot of strong performances across the board for Crazy, of course, but I think his performance has been night and day. I think Emmy as well was really struggling in the previous map. He as well has only died 7 times, and well, to have multiple players able to just get multi-frags as your opposition runs into the site, that's going to be a good sign. 1 round needed for them to absolutely dominate the second map and then go into Dust 2, a map where GODSENT have beaten them before convincingly, but surely the momentum's in their favor again. It's going to be a double opener. That is back-to-back rounds now. Well, not even that. That's at least 3 in a row where they've had double openers. The pistol, you could include that as well. This has just been a sick performance from Crazy.
Very little for GODSENT to work with. Crazy with all 5 up and healthy. They've gotten their doctor's checks. They are ready for this fight, so they have set 3 over onto the A site, as Chips and Otto keep their eyes for a potential B play. It's an AUG that's going to be looking over towards the ramp, where Chips on the upper angle towards ladder manages to find Crystal, so the rest are forced with the clock starting to dwindle down into the final minutes. And Sticko last to fall, so Crazy, a dominating performance on their map pick with Train, completely flipped things around from what we saw from them on Vertigo. And now we get to see who the true King team will be, earning the final spot in the 3rd map.
Yeah, that was just beautiful Counter-Strike from Crazy from start to finish. Every single member on their team performed. There wasn't a single underwhelming player. They were getting entries left, right, and center. They were winning all of their duels. They were getting 2 for 1 almost every single time. At the same time, you can critique the fact that GODSENT just got slapped. Like, they got owned, but hey, you've got to give credit to Crazy where it's due. That was a sick performance of Train.
You mentioned that maybe there could have been a better use of utility for GODSENT, but there's only so much that you can do when combating the strength that Crazy have come through with full force. Let's see if they manage to go loco once again on map number 3 with Dust 2.